Can you imagine being sick and having treatment that is ineffective or, worse, incurable, and you're just sitting in a hospital bed hoping to die sooner? How many of you have heard of the Waverly Hills Hospital or the Waverly Hills Sanatorium? I'm sure most of you haven't. America was once caught in the most terrible period in the history of any illness. During the 1800s and early 1900s, America became wiped out by a sickness known as White Death tuberculosis. This lethal sickness spread quickly, devastating entire families and, in some cases, entire towns. And at that time there was no treatment for TB. In southern Jefferson County, a hospital was built on an open hill in 1910 to tackle this horrible virus. Soon after, the hospital became so overcrowded that it was necessary to build a new hospital with donated funds and land in 1924. Waverly Hills Hospital was the name of this new hospital, which was opened in 1926. The Waverly Hills Sanatorium was the most advanced TB facility in the country at the time. However, the lack of treatment killed most of the Waverly Hills Sanatorium patients in the hospital. Doctors at the time believed that the best treatment for this disease was plenty of fresh air, rest, and a good diet. In 1900, Louisville, Kentucky, had the highest death rates in America by tuberculosis. The sickness's treatment was as harsh as the disease itself. Because at that time proper treatment of TB was not found, other treatments included inserting balloons into the lungs and filling them with air to inflate them. Doctors used to remove the patient's chest muscles and ribs to allow the lungs to grow and take more oxygen. The outcomes have to be terrible. The majority of dead patients left through the body chute. It was a tunnel to where the dead bodies were disposed of. It is called the Waverly Hills Sanatorium Death Tunnel. It did so that the hospital patients would not know how many dead bodies were present. For the patients, their emotional health was just as important as their physical health. Waverly Hills employees had to say goodbye to everything they knew about the outside world. Room 502 is another famous story among investigators of ghosts. Legend says that a 29-year-old unmarried and pregnant nurse hung herself from the light fixture in room 502. Some believed that the lady committed suicide because she had an affair with the hospital's owner and developed TB. Some claimed she was sad as a result of the situation in the hospital. She couldn't bear the death of so many patients and so committed suicide. There was no hard evidence of why she committed suicide, but the rumors continued. It wasn't the only incident in room 502. This place has many stories to tell. The story of a little girl. Many saw her running up and down the third floor. A little boy playing with a ball. A woman with a bleeding wrist who cries for help, and many more. Visitors to the hospital experienced banging doors and footsteps in an empty room. Timmy was a 6 to 7-year-old child who died in the hospital from TB. Visitors bring him toys and balls to play with. Many of them have witnessed the ball moving independently. The ghost of a woman with bleeding wrists is one of the saddest stories in Waverly Hills Hospital. The woman's spirit roams the hospital, crying and bleeding from her hands and feet. She begs for help, but when people approach to help her, she disappears, screaming in fear. It began as a 2-story hospital with 40 beds in 1910 and closed in 1961. With the discovery of streptomycin in the early 1950s, tuberculosis began to be treated effectively for the first time, and the number of patients at Waverly Hills declined rapidly. The Waverly Hills Hospital has been named one of America's most haunted locations. The ghosts of patients who died there are said to haunt the hospital, as is the ghost of a nurse who hanged herself in one of the buildings. The Waverly Hills Hospital has received multiple reports of paranormal activity, including odd noises, disembodied voices, and apparitions. If you like the video, then please subscribe and hit the like button. And click one of these videos. I'm sure you're gonna love it. Thank you for watching.